to July 1st, 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. An exercise that I do each and every day, a little bit after waking up, to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours, how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met. I remember my creed, and I prepare for the coming day. Now, July 1st, and it has nothing to do with the calendar, but I feel renewed. I feel like a new man. And like I said, there's no coincidence with the calendar. It has everything to do with yesterday. But before I get into that, let's talk about, let's do three things real quick. First, quick welcome to new subscribers to the channel. It's great to have you here. Also, a quick disclaimer, this is a journal video, so personal journal video, so I'll talk about me. And don't be surprised if I talk and say things that might make some of you uncomfortable, if you, namely talking about death. I want to say thank you to my subscribers to the channel, to those who are members of my channel, and those that support me on Patreon. Your support makes a big difference. It fuels my adventures. Now, let's get to it. I'm going to do three things now. I'm going to talk about the last 24 hours, like I said, before I'm repeating myself, go over my creed, and talk about the coming day. Yesterday was a momentous day. It wasn't without difficulty. It dawned as a Monday, and I was resolved to have an adventure, so to speak. Let's just use that as a code word for living a deliberate life, living the deliberate life that I want to live, which is a life of being out of the house, out and about, having interesting experiences, places for thought, and all that entails. I'm really leaning in hard to the retired life and to living the dream that might exist for those of us who want to live a deliberate life, to have the dream of having free time to do so. I really leaned into it yesterday, and boy, did it pay dividends, and it wasn't easy. So the day started off normal. I decided that instead of approaching the day, and I decided to do this on Sunday. Yesterday was Monday. I decided to do this on Sunday. I said, I'm going to have an adventure day. I'm going to take the car, clear it with Yumiko. She doesn't need the car, so I'll take the car, take Rudy, and we'll go out, and I'm going to center the adventure around the searching of an Akia or two from akiamart.com website that you can find Akia, which are empty or vacant or abandoned homes available for sale here in Japan. The owners of the Akiamart website reached out to me, and they gave me a free account, and because they know what I do here, and I leveraged that free account to find Akia and then go out and see them. I'm kind of making that the objective of these adventures. So yesterday was like the third time I've done this in earnest, and boy, did it pay dividends. I loaded up Rudy, but I decided instead of leaving really early in the morning, I would go through the normal routine of things, do this video, list an item in the store, let Rudy have his breakfast at home, which is really important because he doesn't like a variation of that routine. So when I took him out and I was having breakfast out, he wasn't eating, but I let him have his breakfast at home. I have breakfast with Yumiko, and then I'm out the door. And okay, so first, remember this video, if you're familiar with this series, I don't make these videos to congratulate myself, to talk about my days in a whimsical manner, or to offer vacant self-congratulations on job well done. Although I will congratulate myself when I spot a job well done, so that I can learn from that experience and hopefully do more of that in the future. But yesterday was really good, and it started off hard, and so I'm really keen on these videos to spot the hard parts, whether I got through the hard part well, and then so I can learn from that and how I can do that better. The hard part yesterday was starting off, because I was afraid. I was astonished at how afraid I was. I've talked repeatedly in these videos in recent weeks about my growing incompetence, and how both my mind and my body seem to be in a kind of a state of retreat, especially my mind. Retreat from my normal cognitive vitality. Well, I would consider it vitality. I've lived a very cognitively rich life, engaging in a lot of thinking and exercising self-control over my mind to become master of my brain, so to speak, and to have my brain seemingly, winding down its horsepower, is a is a faltering and sometimes frightening thing to behold, especially when it yields its results in my day-to-day inability to do simple and mundane things. Yesterday I was scared because I was heading out on my own into the mountains, driving with my dog, and I know that I'm not very capable of things anymore. So I was scared. So my approach, if you've seen these videos in the past, is to basically exercise hashtag temperance. And when I refer to hashtag something, I'm referring to a principle or an objective in my book, Going Alone. I exercise hashtag temperance to control the emotion, hashtag reason to come up with a plan, and then hashtag slow and deliberate to exercise that plan slowly and deliberately. And I pushed right through it. It took me about 2 hours to get to the other side where I was out of the city. It was the city part. It was getting through the city to the suburbs that was the hard part. And I deliberately did it in a way that wasn't rushing my way through. Man, I was doing things like pulling over to the side of the road to reconsider my next steps. Putting the flashers on, finding a safe place to stop, putting the flashers on, stopping, thinking, planning out my next steps. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to, overcome my seeming cognitive decline by, getting ahead of it, by slowing down to accommodate it. And it worked. And I got out of the countryside, and once I was out of the countryside, I felt a little freer. I'm very familiar with that area out there. There's less opportunity, there's less traffic, there's fewer cops, there's places you can pull over and park and stop and think, and then the day unwound just spectacularly. I mean, I would have to rank yesterday, if I had a top 50 days of my life, it would be in that list. It was one of those days. And it was all because of my deliberate effort to make that day happen. And my deliberate effort to not let the moments go by, taking the moments for granted as they were happening. For example, Rudy and I we were on a little tiny road, and we stopped. I just stopped to let him get out and take a little walk in the shade. And I realized that there was a little stream going down. And I followed the stream. It led to a little river to the river, and had a beautiful place for a swim. And I said, "This is it, Rim. Let's go back to the car, get the stuff." Set Rudy up with his leash. I went in and had a great swim. It turned out the water was deep enough I could actually do laps across the river. Beautiful, clear water, perfect temperature. One interesting, engaging circumstance after another. The water, the air quality. There's somebody coming. Let me move out of the way. The air quality was just right. Now, it doesn't mean that all those circumstances have to be just so tuned in the future for me to have such days. But what was revealing of this was not the day itself. It didn't really matter that the weather was perfect in the mountains. It really doesn't matter so much that the water was nice, or that I didn't overindulge. I just had a very simple meal. I stopped at a convenience store and got 2 onigiri and a melon pan and a frozen Pocari Sweat, or it was actually an Aquarius, which you can kind of sit through the day. I had lots of water in my backpack. So the backpack I didn't use it. I just had the backpack. It had all the stuff that I needed for Rudy's water. My swimsuit was in there, etc. And it wasn't the day itself. It was the deliberate action to get up in spite of the day, in spite of my fear, in spite of my increasing old age and decrepitude, seeming decrepitude that did it. And I returned home just kind of hard to describe. I felt, if not 10 years younger, I felt 20 years younger, full of energy, full of vitality, and it's because I had lived a good day. Now, I know that it's hard to replicate stuff like that. You can't really it's hard to put that in a blender and make it every morning. But I know the recipe now, and that's significant. Oh, there he is. So that's significant. That was yesterday. A really good day in that capacity. Now, let's go over my... Oh, was I challenged by anything? Oh, I've already talked about that. I was challenged by a whole lot yesterday, and I would have to give myself... Sometimes I give myself ranking of stars, 1 to 5 stars. It's always positive. I don't give myself negative stars. 1 would basically mean I didn't do a very good job. So, it's like ranking on Airbnb or Yelp or something like that. A 1-star rating isn't good, even though it's a star. So yesterday was a 5-star in every capacity. Oh, and I got to tell you this, and I feel it right now. I feel more capable now than I have lately. Remember, I go on and on about this my body and mind kind of falling away. I don't feel like that this morning. I know it's still there, but something's been bolstered and reinforced. Let's go over the 8 objectives of my creed, which consist as follows. Number 1, to be always ready to die. I told you I'd talk about death. I need to make sure that I'm ready to die, and I am. See yesterday's video if you want a detailed list. 2, to make good and effective use of time. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. 4, to cultivate good emotional reactions. 5, to perform good actions relative to my creed. 6, to recognize true limits and true opportunities. 7, to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. And 8, to maintain my balance. All right, as for today, it's a Tuesday, and I came up with an idea. So now I'm at liberty. I can do the I can recreate yesterday at will now if I want to, any day I want. And that's kind of what I want to do. I think that's how I'd like to live more days like yesterday. That was really good. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to think about it today. I have a lot that I captured on my phone in terms of video, and I did find the Akia Mart homes that I was looking for. I found 3 of them actually, believe it or not. Got interesting observation. Wow, I learned a lot yesterday about Akia in the deep countryside. I thought I already knew the score, but I learned a lot yesterday. Learned a lot. I'm going to think about some of that stuff. So today's going to be a processing day, although I really would like to power through. Today's going to be a processing day. I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make good use of time. I want more of what has happened yesterday. So that's it. Let's read comments. Hi, Michael. Michelle. Hello, everyone, and good morning, Kurt. Hello, Michelle. Evelyn. Hey, Evelyn. Oh, my. Very familiar with this series here. I haven't missed one good life meditation since I first stumbled upon you by chance over a reading of Dr. Johnson nearly 4 years ago. Good gosh. That's been a long time, Evelyn. And Dr. Johnson's, the books are sitting there waiting for me to pick them up again. I'm at Rambler number 51, I think is the one I left off on. Maybe that's about the time that you and I found one another, so to speak. It's really good to, thank you for, following along so long. I appreciate it. Tim, hi Tim. Good morning. Sometimes I find it strange how a nervous anticipation of the unknown can almost be debilitating, but if you overcome it, it becomes an elation, which is a great feeling, Tim. It really is. It really is. And I didn't realize just how much my anxiety relative to my, I guess I'm going to chalk it up to old age. My anxiety relative to what's happening to me as I get old was creeping up on me. And the thought that just kept going through me over and over again. And I didn't record it on any videos. I was at this one village where I found 2 of those houses, and I was seeing old people, and I kept thinking, each of them was like in a rut of the life that they had lived. There was one old woman that I saw, and the look on her face, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm reading myself into it, but the rut of living a course that was inculcated, if that's the right word, by years of habit and fear of trying something different, of pushing outside the bound, and then being trapped into it. And there's somewhere in the Good Life Creed, there's one of the principles that talks about that, I think. If not, then I need to amend the creed perhaps to have something in there. Oh, Oh, I think it's the risk of avoiding risk. That's one of my principles. And the risk of avoiding risk suggests that, because so imagine these people that wanted, I couldn't help but think it over and over again. My wife is an example. My wife, she grew up here, okay? This is a place, even though it's not deep countryside, this is a place where people don't do things that are different, right? She was raised by, her family's been here for over 400 years. You just live your life, you stay here, you don't go far, you don't leave the valley of the T, right? Just stay here. My wife grew up, she said, to screw that, at a high school, she got 2 jobs, worked 2 jobs for 2 years to save up the money, to have a great adventure, and she got on an airplane and came to America and met me. When she left, her family didn't even say goodbye to her. She left the door, she said, I'm leaving, and her father wouldn't even turn around and look back at her. And all she was doing was going to America to go study English. That's all she was doing. So this is the paradigm here, and we all live in paradigms like that to greater or lesser degrees, right? Whether it's from the outside or self-imposed. And I was deep in the mountains yesterday, and I was thinking about how all the people, especially out there, where they've lived there their whole lives, it's like these ruts. And I created the principle called the risk of avoiding risk to say that there's a risk of taking a chance, but there's the risk of avoiding risk. The greater risk that we become, again, to use this word, and I think I'm not using it right, but it feels like the right word, inculcated into a way of life, a set of routines that we can then never escape from. And I saw it over and over when I was living in the States too, and finishing off my career, because I really got lucky when I went back to America, and I got into an organization that had great retirement benefits. That's why I'm retired now. Great retirement benefits, or at least it's the reason I was able to retire at age 60. Great retirement benefits and a great workplace, benefits all around. And people that got into that organization right out of their college, they realized that and they never left. Now, they might have had dreams of something else, of pursuing some other career, living somewhere else, but the benefit, the golden handcuffs of staying on at that organization was such that they never did anything else. And as a result, they got to retirement age and they couldn't do anything else because they'd never practiced anything else. The risk of avoiding risk had locked them. By avoiding the risk of leaving that safe and sane job that would give them a nice retirement at an early age, led them to a state where they could, even if once they were done, they were so deep into the rut, if I can use that word, of the life that they had held on to, they had clung to, that they couldn't embrace anything else. Maybe that's part of what's happening to me right now, is that I just realized that. So I came over there and I spent 10 years in that, 11 years in that same circumstance that some of my coworkers spent 30, sometimes 40 years in, and they couldn't get out. Maybe that's what's happening to me now. Maybe I'm like an ant that's fallen into an antlion's, inverse mound of sand, and the antlion's down there, and I'm trying to scramble out, but I didn't stay in long enough to fall all the way to the bottom. I'm clambering to the top, and I'm trying to clamber over the edge. And maybe what I did yesterday was a successful clamber over the edge. And if you're just joining the video, see the first part of this video for the notes about what happened yesterday. That's significant. And maybe I still got it in me. So Tim, thank you for that insightful observation. I think you're spot on. Tim goes on. Sometimes it's good to push outside the comfort zone, which I think can be harder the older you get. You just basically summarized what you said better than me. What it took me 3 minutes to say just now. Good, well put. Hi Heather. It's comfort versus discomfort. Yeah, it is, and that's one of the reasons that I go on, Heather. Every day I talk about my death. Right, the thing that makes people uncomfortable, and they send me DMs afterwards and say, I wish you wouldn't talk about death so much. And they send me anecdotal evidence of great Aunt Sally, who lived to 93 and was vital to the end, and great Uncle Phil, who smoked his last cigarette at age 102, right? The reason I talk about it is that hashtag memento mori, that's not a principle of mine, that's a kind of more of an ancient, maybe even Stoic principle of remember death. Remember death, can be a way to overcome that discomfort of not breaking out, right? So yeah, Heather, you're right. So between the two of you, Tim and Heather, thank you. I appreciate that. And Heather, welcome back. I hope you had a great time on your vacation. I'm seeing the photos starting to flow down. It looks like you had a wonderful time. I saw your comment on the live stream about about something upsetting the birds. I don't know what it is out there that does that. There's something that moves around and it creates an animal trail. I think the biggest thing out there is tanuki, and they're not dangerous, but that could unsettle a bird. There are wild boar. In fact, that's what this gate right here is for. This gate isn't a human gate. This gate isn't to keep people out. This is the wild zone over there. It's to keep the giant, dangerous, very dangerous wild boars from coming. This is the more urban area where I live, from coming there. There's another such gate right over there. I don't think it's a wild boar because my property is on this side of the fence line. So who knows? But welcome back, Heather. It's great to have you back. I'm glad to see that your package arrived safely. Two customers here, Heather. Tim, your package should be arriving anytime, I believe. And there's a tracking number, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, it arrives safely. All right. As for today, time to get back and do my morning exercise and start my day. I'm not gonna forget about what happened yesterday. I'm gonna make that my new way of life. I've got ideas. All right, Tim. Good. I'm glad you're looking forward to it. Heather says, death is part of the circle of life. People don't want to remember that we're immortal. You know, what do you think, Heather? Do you think it's because it's convenient? It's convenient to not remember, because then we can just we can procrastinate on the hard stuff, right? I've got this dream of doing this thing, but it's going to take some risk and some challenge. There's tomorrow, right? There's tomorrow. I remember doing that in my 20s, right? Pushing it off, and now here I am, 61, right? Thank goodness I didn't push it all off. Heather says, I'll have to look back. Thanks, Kurt. I'll have to look back and see what happens this past week. Excellent. Exactly, Heather says. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye for now.